Believe it or not, August is Friday, and with the new month comes a handful of new laws taking effect in Colorado. And to help us stay in the know is our 9 News legal analyst, Whitney Traylor. And we're talking a little bit, you were telling Sam and I that some of these are complicated, so help us understand.
Yeah, so there's a number of new laws that were passed recently, but they don't go into effect until August. And I think actually the technical date is August 6th. And so several of them relate to employment, one of which is very interesting to a lot of people, is related to non-compete clauses, which in Colorado, those are disfavored. So over the years, they have reduced the power of non-compete. So they're really discouraged in the state. So now they passed a law that will be in effect August 6th related to healthcare providers. And so now healthcare providers aren't bound. It's going to be more difficult to bind a healthcare provider to a non-compete, which is good because a lot of times your medical professional, your dentist, all these type of folks, if they go to a different practice, they weren't allowed to tell the patients where they went. Now they can give them that information, and so patients can then go with the doctor they want.
Thank goodness.
So yeah, so that one seems like a good one. That seems like a no-brainer. So
well,
that's
a lot of people, you know, the employer may not be as happy about that, but yeah, for the consumer, I think that's definitely a benefit. And then another one that I think is a benefit for the consumer is related to the family medical leave. We have the federal family medical leave, but in Colorado we have the paid family medical leave insurance program. So now that was already 12 weeks of pay in which the employer and employee paid into the insurance fund. Well, now if you have a child in a neonatal intensive care, you get an additional 12 weeks. So that means you can get up to 24 weeks. So those are two of the major ones that that have been
That's awesome.
that come down. And then one more related to employment, which is strengthening the wage and claim, essentially the wage theft statute as it relates to employers who aren't properly paying their employees. So for example, one thing that employers will do is they will misclassify employees. So if they're actual employees and they call them independent contractors because it doesn't create liability, they don't have to pay certain insurance. Well, now the employers will really get dinged if they do that. So that's one thing. And yeah, and so there's a lot of strengths related to that. They can't have payroll deductions that reduce employees' pay below minimum wage. So the wage and hour, and there's like 10 or 15 things that it addresses. So that's it in a nutshell.
So protecting employees, that's really important, getting rid of that shady loophole. So
yes,
that's
exactly
good.
Right.
What about July? And maybe those are some of the ones that did go into an effect in July, but any ones that went into effect last month that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so these ones that I just mentioned all go into effect in August.
Okay.
So they're coming up. And then in July, there were about 13 new laws that went into effect, but I think the ones that really got the attention were related to these firearms. So one is that firearm dealers have to now get a state permit. And a lot of folks weren't happy about that, but they have to get this permit. They have to go through a training course. If they find that they have an employee who has a felony, they have to go through certain processes. If they believe somebody purchased a firearm illegally, they have to report that within 48 hours. So a lot of the gun rights advocates are not happy about this, but this is not a major requirement that's really going to, I believe, enhance safety. So that's one. And then there's enhanced training for a concealed carry permit. So if you want your concealed carry, you have to complete and pass an 8-hour training course within 1 year of submitting the application. So you have to go through a written exam, live fire exercises. And again, the Second Amendment folks are frustrated by this. But again, I'm saying this is an 8-hour course. This isn't overly significant. So
we do that with cars.
Right. I mean, a lot of things, right? And there's so many dangerous activities related to firearms. So this is just one more measure to maintain safety. So those were July and August.
Okay. But usually not the end of the story, right? When we see new laws enacted, some people don't like it and they don't take it sitting down and they can file litigation, right?
Right, that's a great point because you have to think about it. So these are laws that are passed by the state legislature. So they can't cover every potential factual scenario. So for example, someone took a course that maybe didn't cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Is that still a violation? We don't know that until you go to litigation. So this is what happens. People challenge these laws and say, hey, this is unconstitutional, this is an overreach. And then it goes to litigation, and then the courts decide that. That's the separation of powers, the checks and balances, is the courts decide, hey, was this law constitutional or not? So even though it's on the books, we're going to see litigation related to it. Somebody's going to challenge it. They'll be charged with violating the law and say, no, this isn't, I disagree, and it'll go through court. So we'll see the evolution of the law over the next several years, and that's how all our laws work, really.
Well, that's a lot, and now I know more. So
There you go.
9 News legal analyst Whitney Traylor, thank you so much.
Sure, good to be here. Yep.